From a top 10 performance in back-to-back years at the CrossFit Games to not even qualifying the next. In 2023, Guy Malheiros was not able to qualify for the CrossFit Games. He took third at his semifinal in South America where there were only 2 qualifying spots. Guy's career has already been chock full of ups and downs. Guy has amassed a very impressive CrossFit resume in just a few years of competing. At 24 years old, he is a multi-time Brazilian national champion, 3 times CrossFit Games athlete, and has placed in the top 10 at the CrossFit Games twice, taking 7th and 10th in 2021 and 2022 respectively. He has 5 event wins in those 2 years and is responsible for some of the most electric moments we've ever seen at the CrossFit Games. How can he be one of the elites in the sport and yet have such inconsistent results? It's because out of a plethora of top CrossFit athletes, no one has quite as unique of a situation as Guy. The first reason for this is that Guy is a specialist. He is significantly stronger than all the other CrossFit Games athletes. If a max lift event comes up at the CrossFit Games, you already know who's winning. But he also has some weaknesses. These are all his event finishes at the CrossFit Games the years he went. All the events in red are events where he finished in the bottom half of the field. You can see a lot of high placements and event wins, but also some placings all the way towards the bottom. And still, he has managed to place in the top 10 at the CrossFit Games twice, despite some of these low finishes. In 2021, a new-ish season format was introduced. This started with the worldwide online CrossFit Open, and then from there, the top 10% from each of the 7 regions move on to an online quarterfinal stage. The top 30 athletes from quarterfinals in the South American region then move on to an in-person semifinal, in which a certain number of athletes will qualify for the CrossFit Games. And no one has benefited from this season format more than Guy. You see, not only is Guy a specialist, but he's a specialist from South America. And while CrossFit is rapidly growing in South America, it's still not quite at the level of North America or Europe. On Guy's path to the CrossFit Games, he does not face the same level of competition the guys in North America and Europe do. By the time he gets to the CrossFit Games, the specialists and outliers from North America and Europe have already been beaten out by more well-rounded guys who maybe aren't as strong. This leaves the strength events at the Games as an easy 100 points for Guy. On top of this, Guy actually benefits from having the ability to be a specialist at the CrossFit Games because after the season has already whittled down to what's supposed to be the 40 most well-rounded athletes, Guy then benefits from having inconsistent finishes at the CrossFit Games. Here's what I mean. This is the scoring table for the CrossFit Games events, aka Guy's best friend. In a field of 40 athletes, it's more valuable in terms of points to get a first place and a 40th place, which would be 102 points, than it is to get 2 20th place finishes, which would only be 86 points. The same average placing for these 2 hypothetical events, but the more specialized person gets 16 more points. Guy's fellow Brazilians have felt the effect of this type of scoring table this most recent year in 2023 at the CrossFit Games. The 2 guys who beat Guy in the South America semifinal, Kalyan Souza and Kaike Cerveni, didn't do nearly as well as Guy has the years he's gone to the Games. And in my opinion, did not do as well as Guy would have had he been one of them at the CrossFit Games in 2023. Because the other South Americans don't have the advantage like Guy of hitting home runs at the CrossFit Games because they are more well-rounded. They are more towards the middle or bottom of the pack on every event. Again, this just emphasizes the fact that Guy has been benefiting from being a specialist in a less competitive region of the world who's able to make it to the CrossFit Games. Looking at his inconsistent finishes and him benefiting from his geography left me wondering, would he even make it to the CrossFit Games if he was competing in one of the North American semifinals? I didn't have to look far before Guy's performance shut that thought down completely. In the 2022 CrossFit Games quarterfinals, Guy took 2nd place in the world, not just beating his fellow South Americans, but beating everyone in North America and Europe. The only person who beat him was the eventual champion that year, Justin Medeiros. How on earth can he take 2nd in the world in quarterfinals and then the next year not even qualify for the CrossFit Games out of the South America semifinal? Maybe I was wrong. Maybe he is better than I thought, and his failure to qualify in 2023 was just a fluke. But here's the thing. It's not. You see, at first, I didn't see any correlation between events he did well on and events he did poorly on, besides, of course, him doing extremely well on max strength events. But as I looked into it further, a pattern started to emerge. Now, this is a list of every event he has done at the CrossFit Games in 2021 and 2022 that has lasted less than 10 minutes long. In these events, we have tons of different movements, weights, workout formats, and movement combinations. And in these events, Guy has an average placing of 5th. That is a very good average placing in an elite field with the top guys in the sport. And here is every event that Guy has done at the CrossFit Games in 2021 and 2022 that lasted over 10 minutes long. In these events, Guy has an average placing of 23rd. 23rd out of 40 for an average event placing is not great. But now consider the fact that a good amount of these events aren't even in a field of 40 because there were cuts at the CrossFit Games in 2021 and 2022. On events that last less than 10 minutes, he has an average placing of 5th. And events over 10 minutes, he places way down at 23rd. This is an interesting kind of specialist. It's not like he's just strong. He's good at everything. He's good at squatting, pulling, pressing, running, rowing, biking, handstand walking, and everything else you could think of, as long as it's under 10 minutes long. Guy's performance is based off of the programming of the competition. There's no way around it. In the 2021 CrossFit Games, 6 of the 15 events were over 10 minutes long. There was a max lift, a short sprint, and 2 clean ladders that year. Guy took 7th. The next year, there were about 7 out of 14 events that were over 10 minutes long. Guy took 10th. The 2022 year that I originally was so impressed by him taking 2nd worldwide in quarterfinals, there was 1 event out of 5 that was over 10 minutes, and it was only 13 minutes long for Guy. The other 4 events were all under 7 minutes. In past years, Guy has been able to make up for his blunders on these longer events and still qualify for the games. He has gone to the games and benefited from being the only specialist who was able to get there. This past season in the South America semifinal, he wasn't able to do that. He began the weekend with a 15th place on event 1, an event that lasted 25 plus minutes, and regardless of his very high placings the rest of the events, that first event put him in a hole too deep for him to crawl out of compared to the more well-rounded Cervini and Souza. We've heard it time and time again. Top CrossFitters train to never fall victim to the programming. The 5-time champ Matt Fraser has said if he has an outlier ability in a certain movement or domain, he would stop training that completely. Yet Guy constantly posts videos of him lifting heavy weights, and he seems to be getting stronger and stronger. He wins heavy lifting events easier and easier all the time. But the real question is, can he figure out some of his weaknesses in time before his fellow South Americans catch up? Or have they already caught up?